everybody, and welcome back to another Brohammer video. Today we're going to be reacting somewhat to the latest article that came out from one Richard Lewis, someone familiar in the gaming space. The article reads, "The Deadlock Debacle shows that still nobody understands games journalism, especially the journalists." So quick take on this. The Verge effectively signed up to one of those, closed beta kind of scenarios for one of these games that Valve was making called Deadlock. And everyone had it, as far as I'm aware, so it's kind of like an open secret that is kind of out there, but they still weren't allowed to say anything about it. You know how when you and your buddies are playing the latest Battlefield game, but you're all under NDA, and you're not meant to record it or screen share it, but you're all in Discord doing that anyway? Kind of like that. You don't advertise it, and if you did, they probably would shut you down, which is kind of what happened here to poor old Verge. So let's just dive into it. So he says, on the 13th of August, The Verge ran an article entitled "We Played Valve's Secret New Shooter Deadlock. It was an embarrassingly poor piece, light on details, and flawed in its conception." Now, I do have a take on sort of game journalism, and we'll probably hit on it if this article starts to divert from that, but we'll get around to it. Hundreds of thousands of people are playing Deadlock, formerly known as Project 8. A secret it is not. For the reporters, narrative purposes, it had to be. You see, the article wasn't about revealing the existence of a classified operation to a readership desperately to know more about it. Rather, it was about showing that nothing escapes the attention of games journalists, and that's interesting. I think we are going to get into some of the points that I wanted to hammer on. So to sort of sum up my take on it, I view games journalism as a glorified ad agency these days when it comes to games media. I think when you try and compare quote unquote real journalists that exist in the real world that are going around and trying to uncover fraud and crime and conspiracy and film wars and do this and do that, it's a lot different in the games industry because they literally just sit there and, for the most part, write puff pieces about games because they don't want to lose their access, which, if you had to compare it to anything, I would maybe compare it perhaps to a journalist that goes to a war-torn country and doesn't want to write bad things about it so their access doesn't get revoked. But even then, I don't think that necessarily happens all too much. It certainly did achieve that goal. It also got the writer banned from access to the game before he'd even had the opportunity to play it for a few hours, which is expected if you have an NDA for a game. I will say that I think games journalists could do more with their access to games before we have them. Might mean breaking NDAs, might mean being sued, but I tend to think that proper journalism comes with risks. Some people disagree with me, which I totally understand. The cringe-inducing edit to the piece revealing that fact had gamers celebrating as the chudosphere. Chudosphere? What is that word? Okay, nobody has ever used the word chudosphere except Richard Lewis, and apparently this blog, Soy Jack, Chudarnicist. I have no idea what this is. Maybe I've just exposed the guy. He might be the only person who uses that word. I have never heard of that before. So the cringe-inducing edit of the piece, the cringe-inducing edit to the piece revealing that fact had gamers celebrating as the chudosphere flooded YouTube with videos about how The Verge had violated an NDA and Valve's copyright when neither were true. Oh, okay. The journalist hadn't even done anything wrong. Well, not really, not technically. The error isn't the minutia of how the article came to exist, but rather what it points to: a broad failure of understanding, a lack of genuine desire to do anything other than convert popularity into web traffic, and an embarrassing need to show off to a crowd who thinks you're a tosser, whether or not you land that handstand. Yeah, I can see us agreeing quite a bit on this. Understanding the psychology of games journalism isn't difficult. Yes, they are motivated by clicks and attention, but that comes with the territory. It's the same with any sort of online brand or anything like that. They also like to use their platforms to proselytize. My God, he's hitting us with the words. Proselytize and attempt to convert someone from one religion or belief to another. So they like to use their platforms to proselytize and politic when all you want to do is read about is the refresh rate. Yeah. They're insecure and can't bring themselves to admit they'd rather be writing about almost anything else, but they don't have the drive or audience to do it. The real key motivator is that they cannot stand to have the gamers think that they might know something that journalists don't. This is why anytime a secret is revealed, someone else's report published, or a news scandal unveiled, they have to all parrot in unison, "Of course I knew that too, it was an open secret actually." It's interesting when you consider sort of Dr. Disrespect stuff. Whenever you look back at streams and whatever else, you'll always see people coming out going, "Oh yeah, we knew that, I heard this from that person, that was about 3-4 years ago." And yet it's like, okay, and nobody said anything. Great. There's an industry of easy access, so to not know absolutely everything would be of course embarrassing, especially if people who've never even written an article about the queer coding chain together knew it first. I can say exactly what happened in this instance and even have a timeline. To back it up, on Saturday the 10th of August, a post was made on the Valve subreddit that said Deadlock crossed 100k concurrent players and it's not even announced yet. It might as well be an open beta at this point. That was then cross-posted to the game subreddit the following day. The discussion was divided between those who were either playing the game but wouldn't share too many details, and those that either didn't have invites or weren't aware of its existence. Shortly after that thread, the concurrent players shot up to almost double the number. So yeah, people have seen it, probably asked for invites, and more people have started playing it. That's just how these things sort of spread like wildfire, I guess, innit? And sort of Reddit spaces and whatever else. It was here that The Verge's editor, Sean Hollister, doubtlessly saw that thread. Hard days digging for journalists these days is checking what's trending on social media and rewriting it in hopes of catching some search engine traffic. We've all been there. I think that's the one thing that YouTubers and content creators do the sort of best thing. They'll see an article coming from Richard Lewis and hop on it straight away to react to it. That's just the space. I kind of hope that I can bring some level of difference in my opinion. I don't consider myself a sort of normal gamer. I've got like experience in sort of software development, which I kind of hope brings a decent tangent. A lot of people the same as me do the same thing. You don't have to go to me to see this sort of stuff, but I hope it brings something, rather than just bleating on about what everyone else is doing. Whether or not I'm right or not, it's up to you guys to sort of discuss in the comments. People watch this if they actually like it. Seeing that people were talking about what an open secret Deadlock was, he decided to ask around for an invite. Anyone who is already in the alpha testing stage can request access a Steam account. Anyone who is already in the alpha testing stage can request access a Steam account. This sentence makes no sense. So actually getting access isn't difficult at all. No, I think you just didn't invite people. It's that easy. The Verge's article comprised of a basic description of the game's printable gameplay loop, a handful of screenshots, and recorded footage of the writer playing against bots. Sort of thing you would normally expect if someone's covering a game, I would guess. The game is already very complex, as you would expect from a genre mashup of a class-based shooter and MOBA. It is going to take dozens of hours just to get a sense of the basic balances and synergies. Despite that, Hollister desperate to show the world that no open secret can slip past, a seasoned games journalist wrote a shallow review, including embarrassing statements, and even in this early development build, there are already 20 different heroes, plenty of which looks like the ones I'd enjoy playing. You see, if you were going to do the big reveal, why not take your time, learn the intricacies of the game, write up detailed descriptions of each character and what roles they fill, tap into some of the lore, but know what they're talking about now, and the games journalists can't have that. Now that's very interesting. This kind of hammers on one of the points in one of my previous videos, where when it comes to React content, and people just see the latest thing, they jump on it and they go, right, I need to react to this. Even if what I'm saying isn't true, I need to get it out there because people have to know. And it's like you don't stop to sort of wait, I think this exists throughout the whole industry, and it's quite prevalent. I feel safe in assuming these motivations, a customary glance at Hollister's social media output is exactly what you would think it would be. That's where our account links to a Mastodon address. A throwback to when Elon Musk bought the website and journalists had a hissy fit because they could no longer back channel to have accounts banned for telling them to learn how to code. Indeed, I don't know anything about that. Indeed, the majority of his last month's output on Twitter, now X, is whining about Elon Musk and bizarrely saying bye Twitter, despite the Verge still being very much active on the site. It's also tiresomely typical. He's tripping me up with these words. I know what the word is, I just can't say it. The language just isn't working today. I've seen some other journalists argue that the Verge's report was newsworthy. This is true, but only in the most rudimentary sense. Like, for someone like me, I guess, who would sort of just be stumbling around on the internet and probably come across it. It's like, oh, Valve has this game that I'm leaving in. I don't have an invite. Guys, I don't care, honestly. It's just so... There's just too many games, honestly. I'm not bothered. There was nothing in Hollister's piece that you couldn't find elsewhere. Game footage leaked on 4chan months ago. I did see that, to be fair. I've seen the sort of bubblings of it, like, oh, this is happening, but nothing that really interested me. I mean, am I the only one that's just waiting for Half-Life 3 and anything else is just like waiting at like League of Legends, Dota 2, those ones just passed me by, didn't bother with them, Half-Life Alyx, it's VR stuff. Don't have any room for VR in here. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, just give me some games, man. There's already a community subreddit. Now, I can tell you for a certain that anytime a new trend or anything pops up, the Reddit moderators will jump on that in a heartbeat. I remember I think it was a pretty snazzy name for the Call of Duty games. I think it might have been for maybe the old Black Ops series, something like that. And when I tell you, there was like a fight because I wanted to start a Call of Duty community and I wanted to do it this way. But the old guys that did the sort of original r/Call of Duty weren't having it. They got mad and they started like And we had a fight in between us, and it just fizzled out into nothing, right? And they probably don't even remember it even happening, but it was sad, honestly. Like a bunch of grown men just arguing over who gets the subreddits or where people go when it comes to like certain things. It might even have been about Call of Duty Modern or something like that. I can't even remember. So it's a community subreddit with an excess of 27,000 members. People got to be those janitors. If you want to find out details about the game, you can with ease, and if you want free access to it right now, you can message someone on Steam and you'll have it within a few hours. So to be clear, even though Hollister did it for what are likely pathetic, transparent reasons, he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't violate an NDA, he didn't betray an embargo, he didn't even click a box that would have forced him into an almost certainly unenforceable agreement. He did his very best big boy reporting. Interesting. And as a little Valve. Despite all that though, he's certainly caused a stink, and one that could come with some professional consequences. It is highly unlikely that Valve would place The Verge on a future blacklist for this, but it's within the realms of possibility. Even if a company were to place them on a low priority list when it came to comment and access, would it have been worth it? A few clicks and showing your readership that you're so well connected and you can get into the same alpha tens of thousands of players have already been enjoying for a month, it seems that stupefyingly short-sighted lapse in editorial judgment. To be clear, The Verge can absolutely report on it, can report on the existence of the game and anything they want connected to it. I know enough about the game's journalists to know that The Verge will now likely go out of the way to publish more leaks about the game just to show how not owned they are. Any reader complaining about that is frankly an idiot, yet the greater stupidity is not understanding why the report was so poorly received in the first place. This is something that wouldn't take long to understand if they asked around, but gone are the days where reporting on games make any effort to engage with the communities that those games create. I need to read that again. What was he saying here? To be clear, The Verge absolutely can report on the existence of the game and anything they want connected to it. This is something that wouldn't take long to understand if they asked around, but gone are the days when those reporting on games make any efforts to engage. Yeah, they've made an article, it's not went down well with the community, and rather than trying to learn from it, they'll just kind of stick their head in the sand. Who do we know that it does all that? It's crazy how this is just so intertwined, honestly. So you know what? Valve distributed Deadlock pretty much out of the blue and did so as an informal fashion as a games developer ever will. It was quite simply, do you want to test out a new game? Then somewhere down the line it became, do you want to invite your friends to test out the game? Which makes sense, especially if it's a sort of multiplayer, even a sort of co-op, whatever it is, that you probably want to try and play it with people that you actually are friends with. That way you can rate and give feedback on that experience. The only price of admission was don't be an asshole, which I think is the best price of admission for anything. So you can understand why this would have totally sailed over a games journalist's head. The agreement amounts to don't leak it because we want this to be as polished as possible when we roll it out into beta. This has given having access to Deadlock a real one-of-a-kind speakeasy vibe, and for most part no one is snitching, which is actually pretty true. It's quite crazy how they kind of just managed to like organically grow this group of like these Deadlock players that were just not giving it out or like talking about it to an excessive level or moaning about it or anything like that. It's actually could be something that should be studied. So I bet you a lot of different games, if they did do this, would have got a different response. Maybe it's just like different gaming sectors that they inhabit, something like that. Just different fans, I guess. Sure, you can upload a video or stream it or even write a review, but you can do that exactly once. After that, you'll be removed from having the chance to help develop the game, and you might not even get your access back after launches. In addition, because everyone understands that they could do the same thing but have elected not to, it's just going to make you look like a knob. Yeah, so it's like everybody's like aware that you could do this, but the first one that does it is going to be the arsehole. So everybody not doing it is kind of keeping everyone back from doing it, which is the goodwill Valve have shown and how they have handled access has been reciprocated by a community that is continually told they can't be trusted to have nice things about other developers. Hey. Yeah, if you want to know about those conversations, you can check my other videos. Already, if you know where to look, there are private discussions and metagame theory crafting private YouTube channels publish high quality videos, patch note breakdowns of the most recent changes. Discords exist to facilitate competitive matchmaking and their established community figureheads. That's crazy for a game that isn't even out yet. There's a developer forum for bug fixes and feedback for future balance changes. It has all the foundational aspects of any competitive games community, but like how they used to be about 20 years ago. That is why the people who are part of it enjoy being a part of it. These are quiet, enjoyable moments before the floodgates open to the internet's legions of screaming teenagers and sweaty tryhards. This is quite possibly the only time the game will be fun in the traditional sense of the word. Now that is an interesting sort of concept, that you're kind of at that precipice where it's just great, good fun, but I kind of wonder, like, if a game launches like that and people get kind of tired of it before it's even launched, like imagine you had the World of Warcraft expansion, right? And this is why I don't play beta, I don't play alpha, I don't do any of that, because if I go away and play it behind the scenes to help the developers and sort of tune the game for the way I think it should be, when the game finally launches, I'm not playing that. There's a reason why a lot of developers don't play the games that they're making, because they've spent their entire working career for 5 or 6 years doing that. So when it actually launches and the finished product's there, they're like, I don't want to even look at that anymore. I don't want to look at that code base anymore. Move me on to the next project, and pronto. Jesus. It's why you'll see like studios not want to be known for one thing, which I guess is why Valve's flat structure really helps a lot, because the developers just make things that they actually want to do. So if they want to do a lot of TF2 hats or Steam improvements or work on Dota 2, or they really believe in this project over here, then they can go do it, which is a really interesting structure, and one which I think Valve is renowned for. Yeah, TF2 still an excellent game. I still boot that up every year. It's still excellent. So when a journalist comes along to say to break the one rule to rule them all, whatever the quote is, every other player, be the humble TF2 refugee, content creator, or reporter, has agreed to, then yeah, you're going to get called a dick. Sure, it's your job, maybe even your nature. I know many journalists think nothing of betraying confidences as they deliver the "you knew I was a scorpion when you sat down for drink" speech. That's not going to win you any friends in the gaming communities, which, as you've spent the past 10 years making abundantly clear, is fine by you anyway. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, because games journalists, for the most part, is just writing stuff that is incredibly safe. I kind of think that there's two different camps, right? There's the sort of YouTube reactor sort of journalists, and by journalists I mean people that do write as well. I'm just sort of trying to think of a group that perfectly encapsulates what this kind of thing looks like, where you're just sort of angry at the industry and you have that burning fire of passion and you just want to moan a lot about everything. And then you just become one of those people that just moan, which kind of like me already, alright? My very short YouTube career has meant I've moaned about everything so far. But then you have the other side, which is like too far over in the oh my god, the new Battlefield 2042 is coming out. Here's the top 5 classes for you. By the way, here's these like guns which are super good. And like, no, we're moaning about the game. It's not good at the minute. So there's like those two different camps. I don't think I do not think there's this good middle ground, because these ones over here are trying. I feel like, to me, they're trying to satisfy the game publishers at the end of the day, because they're kind of beholden to them if they want early access. I mean, look at a channel like Linus Tech Tips, who don't get access to Apple hardware anymore because they wrote a bad review about like certain things here, there, and everywhere. And like, if you're against LTT having access, then you kind of have to be alright with private companies just revoking access to anybody. I don't think that's good for games journalism, which I think is why the space is just quite rubbish. Imagine if instead of rushing to leak the most surface level reporting, they'd instead taken time to stick around and hang out, learn more about the game and the people who play it. Months from now, that would make you an authoritative voice when speaking about it, someone well connected and authentic. But see, that takes so much time. You gotta write those articles, you gotta do those quick words, you gotta fire it out as soon as you can, without any consideration of anything. You gotta get those clicks. Like, I get what he's saying here, but it's kind of on us as well as the sort of readers. We've kind of made the industry the way it is. The market has decided it. Once you know that make you an authoritative voice when speaking about it, someone well connected and authentic. From that vantage, you could do solid reporting that has value. Does it have more value though than just punting out those articles? Niche for sure, but that would retain a loyal following, and if the game was to go on to be part of the new wave set to replicate a comparative dinosaurs of titles like League of Legends, you would have established your site as a hub for all that traffic and interaction. That is interesting. Would that work though in the space where people sort of rise and fall and empires of YouTubers can be like brought down with one reaction video? I don't know. But the Verge is the Verge has been going on forever, so maybe they're just immune to this sort of stuff. But the Verge is a serious tech website and thinks goals such as those are silly and beneath it, and maybe they're right. Which brings us back to why they'd run such a pointless piece in the first place. Also, we would like to screech like a vampire stung by holy water if you called him a games journalist, so why was he so quick to run out and plant their standard? Given Valve's increasing forays into the world of tech with Steam Deck and Index, why risk the annoyance just to stick it to Reddit? The answer is games journalism. Maybe journalism in general has become largely self-serving practice where nothing matters except appearing smarter than the audience you're supposed to serve. It's interesting. I can see where he gets that takeaway from, but I would probably just push back a tiny bit on it. And he obviously knows this area much, much better than I do. But I would kind of hope it's probably more related to just a sort of numbers game at the end of the day. Maybe like something clicked for them and they're like, oh my god, there's this game out. We don't have to sign an NDA. We don't have to do this. Why aren't we talking about it? And I went and I sort of spoke about it. But I think you can see it in a sort of bad light. I think you can see it in a sort of good light as well. And I'm not trying to defend the Verge here. I think at the end of the day, I'm probably someone that appreciates more risque publications. So a game journalist taking a chance on sort of reporting something that needs to be reported on. So I think Richard Lewis has a Substack which is followed, which he has fans that like to sort of look at his content. So he's not really at much peril of being completely irrelevant like a Verge is, which lives and kind of dies by its SEO traffic and lives and dies by how relevant it is and what it actually reports on. If The Verge is known for not reporting on the latest trends, the latest games, the latest this, the latest that, why would you ever have it in your bookmark bar? Why would you ever go to it? Why would you ever look at an article that pops up on Reddit? Because it's probably another publication out there that's already done it first. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it when you've been like scrolling, you've seen like an article come up, especially if it's programming or tech related, you'll head over to like a certain subreddit to see what their thoughts on it are. Whoever like gets stock news and immediately goes to like Wall Street Bets or the stock guy on a Twitch, do you ever see yourself going to like CNBC stock news or like this or that? Like, these publications live and die by their reputation. Verge doesn't really have one, but maybe some people use it because it's so like fast in terms of getting to the point. I think that could be like a serious contender for why they just decided to write it. At the end of the day, I don't think I would go after games journalists for kind of breaking the rules. That's what I kind of want them there for. That's why they can wear a press badge and sort of ask outlandish things and kind of get away with it. You know that when you sit down and you're watching a sort of presidential press pool and Fox News comes up or some like OANN or some other organisation, you're going to ask a pretty hard-hitting question most of the time. And they might even ask a question which is rather rude or whatever else. But as someone that kind of wants people held accountable and wants these questions kind of answered as well, you want to kind of see how they react under pressure, something like that isn't too bad to actually see. Especially when they can get softballs from favoured media outlets and, you know, media outlets that would otherwise have just left this game to be completely unwritten about until Valve decided it was now time to do so. And I also see the other side of the coin. There's like 5 different sides of this coin, by the way. Writing about a game which is in early access and writing all this stuff about it, and maybe the flaws that it has, maybe the problems that it has, can also kill the game. People can look at that and go, if The Verge's article was actually not very good, if The Verge's article was actually not very good, people could have looked at it and went, oh, I'm not going to play that, and went, you know what, and when a buddy invites them, they might go, nah, I've seen this article, it doesn't actually sound that good, I'm not going to bother even getting invested into it. That's the thing, games these days are getting invested into them, especially if it sounds like a hero shooter, like FPS game. It's like another one, to be honest. Like, so as far as I can see, The Verge's article is still up as well, which is kind of interesting. Now, Richard Lewis says he's not going to break the community's one golden rule, and that is leaking things like this, like the image that I'm showing just now. But I don't think you can write a piece about The Verge's article and then not expect people to go and look at it. So yeah, he's not going to post the picture, but I'm going to go there and find it anyway. So I don't think I'm breaking rules by doing that, whatever community rules are. Not that I care, anyway. It's like Overwatch, Dota 2 and Team Fortress 2 all baked into a pie. Well, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good selling mark, is it not? So Sean Hollister is a senior editor and founding member of The Verge, who covers gadgets, games and toys. He spent 15 years editing the likes of CNET, Gizmodo and Engadget, all 3 publications I've read quite a bit. I don't even think CNET still exists. I think that was bought over, right, and shut down. No, CNET does still exist. Alright then, there you go. CNET's still alive. Nearly 5 years since Valve announced a truly new game, counting, Valve has still not announced Deadlock, its new hero shooter that takes cues from Overwatch, and still hasn't stopped 20,000 people from trying the game, including me. And I'm not under NDA, I've signed no contracts, I've made no verbal agreements. I haven't even clicked through an end-user license agreement. Deadlock is still in early development with a lot of temporary art and experimental gameplay. Do not share anything about the game with anyone. This message does pop up when I launch Deadlock, but I didn't click OK. Instead I hit the escape key and watched it disappear. Right. I think that's a bit of a dick move then. If like their sort of agreement page isn't working, then that's kind of cheeky. Do you know what I mean? Just like, I didn't press OK. I just didn't look at the screen and then just waved my hands about it, and it accidentally must have hit the mouse and it pressed OK. I view that as that, so it is what it is. But it's like 20,000 people are playing it and nobody's reporting on it. I feel like that's still worth reporting on. Earlier today I received a no-strings invite to play Deadlock on Steam. Steam claims the game is made by Valve, it displays Valve's copy of the logo when it launches, and is digitally signed by Valve Corp. The game is direct to contain Valve legal notices and other things, so it's definitely Valve's game. This is the menu. So what is Deadlock? Sean's very first match with bots, so you play it with bots, 6-on-6 hero shooter. You have lanes, it seems like, so like Dota, I guess. You've got creeps and whatever else. There's no downtime, it's constant war between your teams, triples, the grunts, and the enemy's team's triples, which keep respawning and advancing on enemy positions wave after wave, but they can't break through it unless a human-powered heroes lend them a hand purple. This sounds excellent. Nor can humans easily break through without an NPC army, or at least, yeah, so it's the same as like League or Dota. You need to sort of be there and sort of fight in the fight in order to get things going. Now, I'm obviously not going to go through and leak all of this. Update. August 12th. Turns out Valve was not a fan of me trying Deadlock with friends. I've been banned from matchmaking. Oh well, please feel free to make fun of me in the comments. Which is fine. Honestly, like, we have to kind of consider this. I seen this article and wasn't really that impressed about clicking on it, so I didn't. The title didn't really reach out to me. I heard about this drama and I went, not really that bothered. Finally, I've read the wee Richard Lewis article on it and gone, you know what? He seems to have an opinion on it. Why don't I just go and check it out? And honestly, the article, I think, does a pretty good job in being very surface level and giving me the details I need to know. Here's the game, here's some screenshots. You'll probably like it. If you like these 3 games, it's baked into a pie. There you go. I think it does that job quite well, and perhaps people might be being a little bit too critical of The Verge. I never thought I'd say that, ever in my life. So perhaps I'm going insane. I don't think I necessarily agree with the sort of overall picture that the article's trying to paint, that The Verge was just doing this because they kind of wanted to be like, in some ways, better than everybody else, or better than the crowd of people that are sort of following them. I think it can be a little bit more than that. Perhaps it was just one of those things, you sort of go into the office on Monday morning and you go, we haven't actually wrote an article about this. In fact, nobody has. Why don't I just write a couple of lines and see where it sort of goes? I think it was cheeky to sort of bypass the sort of acceptance screen that you won't share anything about the game. At the end of the day, I think this sort of stuff is what it is, and I think more games journalists could do better to sort of break the rules and stay inside of them. And I understand that is not an opinion, which is, I understand that's not really an opinion that is prevalent in the industry. But that's it from this article. Let's see the comments, see what they say. These are quite enjoyable moments before the floodgates open to the internet's legion of screaming teenagers and sweaty tryhards. It's quite possible the only time that the game with fun and traditional sense to us is so on point. Great article, it's always rich. Yeah, I think that's kind of true for any kind of game that's quite small and sort of niche. Like, remember when Pokemon Go first came out and it was just everyone having fun, going around, walking around, trying to collect Pokemon, stuff like that, and then metas came out about it, as always, and it's like, oh, and then nobody just don't even bother with it anymore at that point. I think the only people playing it are those that just got stuck in it and they have it now. Verge Journalist is a piece of shit. That is strong. Thanks for letting me know. Getting access so easy. It took me all 5 minutes to find something to ask. I thought this was a whole hush-hush thing. Decided to try it. In my opinion, the Verge article is working then if it's alerting you that you can get access so easily. If we take a look at, like, the Verge article goes over about how anyone with a copy can invite as many Steam friends as they like. So I think this commenter's kind of, if they'd read the Verge article, and the Verge journalist has done his job in explaining that actually anybody can give you an invite and it's quite easy to get one, then actually for this person, it's a good thing that they wrote the post. No, that's just the way I would take it. If they never wrote the post, Richard wouldn't have wrote this, which means you wouldn't have got an invite. But if you read the original Verge article, you would have got an invite and you would have been happy anyway. So you're kind of in a bit of both camps there, I feel like. Learned a new word. Yeah, tell me about it. I've learned about 5 words during this article. The coincidence of figuring out Deadlock without the rush of penalty online generic content spam rushing out half-baked guides for online votes is refreshing. Yeah, totally agreed. I think that's just the same with all new games. It's a very funny trend in gaming. Whenever something comes out, whenever a DLC comes out, whenever an expansion comes out, whenever a new game comes out, the minute it launches, or even if it's in an early release stage where it releases like 3 days early, the top thing on Reddit at that moment will be, hey guys, I just bought the game, is it too late to sort of jump in? Because by that point, everyone's already figured out builds and what they're going to do and how they're going to do this, how they're going to do that, and how the game should be played. And I guess that's kind of on the devs to some degree for making it hard to sort of jump in and know what it is that you want to try and build. So for me, an example of this would be, I want a really strong, powerful, nice build for my Diablo 4 character, but I feel like I need to go and look at a guide to see what possibilities there are before I then go into the game and then start tuning things. You're right, I could just go into that talent picker and start putting things into that and testing out this and testing out that, but that takes beyond so much time when all I want to know is what gear I need, what I can then do, what my abilities are that I can then do, what it looks like gameplay wise, and I can get all that within about 20 minutes of searching, which is way quicker. And perhaps that's just my ADHD attention span just breaking there, but people that write guides and that, like, they're the true heroes, because for a lot of games I just simply wouldn't know what to do. That's it from me, guys. Just an easy article reaction today, nothing too serious. Let me know if you like this sort of stuff down below. The article with Dr. Milan went over really well, so I figured I'd just do another one. This one on Richard Lewis. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this sort of stuff, and I'll keep you informed of anything else that happens in the world with future videos. So keep subscribed, and I'll see you in the next one.